Jeffrey Beatty, an official Big Brother psychologist. Body language is an integral part of truth itself and is very much the other half of language, the neglected half. Here Jeffrey Beatty is trying to say that body language is a gateway into seeing people's true thoughts and feelings. Although we may not notice it all the time, it's still a part of how we communicate. All of us in this room have used body language at some point, including cohort A. And we use these in ways such as getting our point across in speaking, or when trying to communicate to our friend that someone we don't like just walked into the room. Of course, there are many other different ways that we use body language, but these are just some we use to communicate our emotions without necessarily saying them. Don't just believe me though, as there have been many different studies to show that body language helps us understand and corresponds with emotion and our actions. At times it may seem like body language goes unnoticed, but it plays a role in communication and how we perceive emotion. It always does. Now, I say always so confidently, since our brains are literally wired to recognize body language. Ever since the beginning of time, humans and animals have been using body language to communicate. As reported by professors at many esteemed universities, Robert Sternberg and Alexander Kostic, humans use nonverbal signs such as smiling, frowning, and shoulder shrugging to communicate with each other when we get good at talk. Animals use things such as arching their backs like cats, sneering, and tail wagging to show how they're feeling. In order for us to truly survive, we not only had to use body language, but we also had to learn how to recognize it. Research by Laura Martinez and her co-workers who work at the Department of Psychology in their universities noticed that we recognize angry bodies better than any other emotion. This is because when we were surviving back then, our bodies had to notice imminent danger coming from far away. This research helped us realize that we use this as an integral part in our survival. Though, of course, nowadays, we don't really use it to try to see if somebody's chasing us 20 feet away from us. We use it more in trying to see if somebody's lying to us or being deceptive. This is more of the modern day survival. Research done by Alice Proverbio and her co-workers found that our brains prioritize face and body mimics before even looking and listening to what people are saying. So this is basically saying that when somebody is talking to you, you mostly only look at what they are doing with their hands or their face, not even really what they're saying. You compare the two after the fact. This is important because this is trying to see that our brains are trying to see what people are feeling, and this is how body language is connected to us, because body language indicates feeling. Dental business visionary Roger P. Levin states that body language is a real indicator of how people are truly feeling. He believes that people should avoid negative body language when being in a professional setting, as it can undermine anything positive you are saying to the patient or who you're working with. This is because it can seem very off-putting when something you are saying doesn't match up with what you are doing. But body language not only influences how we hear verbal communication, but it also influences how we notice facial expressions, which is another form of body language. Beatrice de Gelder, a cognitive neuroscientist and neuropsychologist, found that body language strongly influences how we're able to recognize facial expressions. For example, pretend you're walking down the street and you bump into somebody with a hot cup of coffee in their hand, and they spill it all over themselves, and you want to apologize, so you look at their face. You see that they have a very odd facial expression, and you can't quite dictate or pinpoint how they're feeling. But you don't really care about that, as you're just trying to clean them off. But you notice, as you're trying to clean them off, they are holding a fist at their side. Before, perhaps you couldn't tell how this person was feeling with their facial expressions, as it looks like they were in pain, but they were also trying to hide the fact that they were in pain so you wouldn't feel bad. But now you know it was pain, but it also was anger. And we saw this through body language. This is because body language is a window into people's true feelings and emotion. So what happens when people are aware of that? With the coffee situation, people weren't able to, the person wasn't able to tell that they were expressing their anger. But people like good liars and good business people are able to consciously control this. But if you use it for the case of lying, when you're lying, sometimes people unconsciously give themselves away through their body language. As found by Alexandra Kotick and Sternberg from before, those who haven't learned how to hide their body language unwillingly give it away, unwillingly express their emotions. Those who have will show things like micro expressions because they are so good at hiding it that it's only for a split second that you notice it. Micro expressions such as blinking really fast or blushing. Another group of people who are lying and are good at it will show things like inconsistencies, such as giving fake smiles or nodding yes when you mean to say no, things like that. Though people don't usually use body language that often to deceive others. Most people, especially in a professional setting, use it to make others comfortable, such as Roger P. Levin from before. He states that people in dentistry should use positive body language, such as leaning forward to make their patients comfortable. He also states that we should mirror their body language, as this makes them comfortable and trust us. You should avoid things like crossing your arms, as it makes you seem closed off and like you're not listening. And that you should make eye contact, because if you don't, it could seem like you're not being truthful or listening at all. Other people who use this types of body language is authors and speakers. Authors use it to emphasize how their characters are feeling. For example, if I were to tell you to write down how this person is feeling, you will most likely incorporate their body language and how they're rocking back and forth and have their hands on their head. That is body language expressing emotion. Speakers also use this. As found by Jeffrey Beatty, they use things called stage gestures. This is where they use gestures to gain the audience's attention and get their point across. As you can see, body language is everywhere, and it's important to understanding how we communicate and how we people work in general. Now, do what you will with the language I have just given you, but don't go looking too far into people's body language, as people are very different. Thank you.